Welcome to the Black A History channel. Please share this video and subscribe to this channel for more captivating content. With all of the anti-LGBTQ legislation happening in our homeland of Africa, you would never suspect that there were so many different ethnic groups in Africa that celebrated same-sex relationships, diverse gender identities, and multiple gender social roles. The Ashanti or Ashanti people, a powerful subset of the larger Akan people that have ruled in what is now the country of Ghana for hundreds of years, have a history of male concubines and slaves that served the royal aristocrats, politicians, and kings of the Ashanti courts. The Ashanti are a powerful people who have one of the longest established open communication and interactions with the Western European countries like the British. The Ashanti Empire was one of the few African states to consistently and arduously resist colonization. For nearly 70 years after 1823, the Ashanti would resist colonization and what is now called the Anglo-Ashanti Wars. The Ashanti were, and are still, world-renowned for their copious amounts of gold jewelry and artwork, as well as their beautifully woven kente cloth that stand out as some of the most stunning and distinct clothes and fabrics from the continent. I also think it's notable that another way in which the Ashanti tribe's cultures differs from the hyper-masculine Western cultures is that their family structures are matrilineal, meaning the individual's descent, family name, and inherited resources are passed down from mother to child instead of father to child. Though there are little written historical narratives recorded by the Ashanti, the British colonizers recorded the sightings of very visible male concubines who had sexual relationships with the royal men of the Ashanti court but were not given marriage privileges. Though there are not many details about these men besides their roles as concubines, we do know that many of them dressed as women in the courts, denoting their status as concubines and sexually queer beings. As concubines and as men, these feminine-presenting Ashantis likely lived relatively comfortable lives but had little social or political autonomy, and a terrible custom that came with being a royal's male concubine was that if the master you were serving died, you would have to be executed along with him, having served your royal purpose. I'd heard of this law before with other gay relationships amongst royal African men, and apparently any man who consumed a royal man's special oils was seen as to be a spiritual threat to the power system. Coincidentally, a closely related group in Ghana, the Bono people, celebrate an annual festival every year at the end of March and beginning of April called the Apu Festival. The festival, held in the cities of Techiman and Wenchi, marks celebrations of the Bono overcoming their tribal enemies and conquering the neighbors of the Ashanti. Part of the festivities entails partygoers, male and female, cross-dressing during the celebration. It's fascinating and also disheartening to know that indigenous African cultures were so open about gay relationships, but homophobia has had such a devastating impact on LGBTQAI life in modern times. Male concubines and eunuchs having relationships with the most powerful men in Africa is no longer a secret, but now the descendants of these very same leaders vilify gay men and LGBTQ people in their home countries. As we now know, homophobia is a European colonial import which has entrenched itself in the repressive Christian politics of modern Africa. Homosexual acts were criminalized in Ghana in 1892 by the British colonizers, citing the Offences Against the Person Act of 1861, a British law that affected all British colonies, including Ghana. Yet over 150 years later, this stigma on gay sex still exists and is embraced by modern Ghanaian politicians. If the people of Ghana truly wish to release the shackles of colonization like they keep saying they wish to, then the hypocrisy of criminalizing innocent LGBTQ adults for consensual sexual acts needs to end now. The Ashanti people have a beautiful culture and history that at one point in time did not repress intimacy between men, and it's time we get back to honoring our natural human desires and relationships in all of their diversity.